She thought she had the perfect marriage until her billionaire husband's one nightstand returned 5 years later, begging him to save their dying son. The intercom buzzes at the gate. Quinn Rogers presses the button, expecting a delivery. Instead, a woman's voice comes through, shaking and desperate. Please, please, I need to speak to Charlie Rogers. It's about his son. Quinn frowns, confused. His son? We don't have a son. We have 2 daughters. I think you have the wrong house. The voice breaks. No, I have the right house. His son. The son he made with me. 5 years ago. Please, he's dying. Your husband's son is dying, and I don't know what else to do. Quinn's hand freezes on the intercom button. The world tilts sideways. What did you just say? I have a picture. I'm holding it up to the camera. Please, just look. Quinn's eyes move to the security monitor. A thin woman with dark circles under her eyes holds a phone pressed against the camera lens. On the screen is a little boy in a hospital bed. Pale skin, oxygen tubes. And those eyes, amber eyes, the same exact shade as her husband's, the same eyes she sees every day in her daughter's faces. The woman's voice cracks again. His name is Tom. He's 5 years old. He has leukemia, and if Charlie doesn't help us, he's going to die. I wouldn't be here if there was any other choice. I swear to God, I wouldn't do this to you. But he's dying. Quinn hears footsteps behind her. She turns. Charlie is walking down the hallway, coffee mug in hand, reading something on his phone. He looks up and sees her face. Quinn, what's wrong? She can't speak. She just points at the monitor. Charlie walks over, still confused. He looks at the screen. At the woman. At the phone she's holding. At the little boy with his eyes. The coffee mug slips from his hand. It shatters on the marble floor. His face goes completely white. And in that moment, Quinn knows. She knows it's true. All of it. Charlie whispers, "Oh my God." Quinn's voice is ice. "Who is that, Charlie?" He doesn't answer. He just stares at the screen like he's seeing a ghost. The woman outside the gate starts crying. Please, please, I need 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes of your time. He needs a bone marrow test. He needs family. He needs his father. Please. Quinn looks at her husband. At the man she's been married to for 12 years. At the father of her daughters. At the person she thought she knew better than anyone in the world. And she realizes she doesn't know him at all. She presses the button that opens the gate. Family, if you've ever had your world shattered in a single moment, you need to hear this story. Hit that subscribe button right now, because what happens next will show you what Grace Under Fire really looks like. Drop a comment, tell me where you're watching from, or just type, "I'm with you, Mr. Hearthline," because this story is about to take you somewhere you won't believe. Now, before I tell you whether this marriage survives, before I show you if this child lives or dies, before you see what real forgiveness looks like, you need to understand how we got here. You need to know who these people were before everything fell apart. Because family, broken things don't just shatter randomly. There's always a crack that starts it. Always a moment when the fault line forms. So let me take you back. Let me show you the perfect life that was about to implode. 3 months before that gate opened. 3 months before a desperate woman with a dying son rang the doorbell of the Rogers estate. Quinn Rogers woke up the same way she did every morning, quietly, carefully, in a bed that cost more than most people's cars, in a house that looked like it belonged in a magazine, next to a man who was already gone. Charlie's side of the bed was cold. Again, Quinn ran her hand over the expensive sheets and told herself it didn't matter. He was busy. He was providing. He was building the life they'd always wanted. That's what she told herself. She got up, pulled on her yoga pants and a cashmere sweater, and walked down the hallway past her daughter's rooms. Dorothy, 8 years old, still asleep with her stuffed rabbit. Ella, 6, sprawled across her bed like a starfish. Quinn smiled. These girls were everything. Her whole world fit into 2 small bodies with messy hair and Charlie's amber eyes. Downstairs, the kitchen was gleaming. Marble countertops, stainless steel appliances, a coffee maker that cost $4,000. Quinn pressed a button and listened to it hum. Outside the window, the sun was rising over perfectly manicured lawns. Willow Heights, the kind of neighborhood where everyone's life looked perfect from the outside. And from the outside, Quinn's life was perfect. Charity galas every month, PTA president, a husband who'd built a tech empire from nothing, 2 beautiful daughters, a closet full of designer clothes, a calendar full of important events, everything she was supposed to want. But sometimes, late at night, Quinn would walk past the room at the end of the hall, the one they'd painted blue 4 years ago, the one that was supposed to be a nursery, the one that still had a crib in the corner, covered with a sheet, because neither of them could bring themselves to get rid of it. Lucas, that's what they were going to name him. Quinn had been 6 months pregnant when it happened. Just happened. One day there was a heartbeat, and the next day there wasn't. The doctor said sometimes these things just occur. No reason, no explanation, just loss. It was the 3rd miscarriage, but it was the only boy. And something in Charlie broke that day. He didn't cry at the funeral. He didn't talk about it. He just worked more, stayed at the office later, traveled more, put distance between himself and the grief. Quinn understood, or she tried to. Everyone processes pain differently, right? That's what the therapist said. Give him time, give him space. He'll come back to you. Except he didn't. Not really. He was there physically. He showed up for birthdays and school plays. He kissed her goodbye in the morning. But the connection, the intimacy, the way he used to look at her like she was the only person in the world, that was gone. Quinn took a sip of coffee and pushed the thought away. All marriages have seasons. That's what her mother always said. Sometimes you're close, sometimes you're distant. It's normal. It doesn't mean anything's wrong. Their anniversary was coming up. 12 years. Maybe that would help. Maybe a nice dinner, just the 2 of them, would remind them of who they used to be. She didn't know that in 3 months, her marriage would be over. She didn't know that her husband was keeping a secret that would destroy everything. She didn't know that somewhere across the city, a little boy with Charlie's eyes was about to get the diagnosis that would bring it all crashing down. But family, there's someone else you need to meet. Someone whose story is just as important. Because this isn't just about Quinn. This is about the woman who rang that doorbell. The woman who made an impossible choice 5 years ago and has been living with the consequences ever since. Her name is Avery Steele. And 5 years ago, she was a completely different person. Avery sat in the hospital room and held her mother's hand. Hannah Steele had been fighting cancer for 2 years. 2 years of chemo and radiation and hope and disappointment. 2 years of medical bills piling up like snow in a blizzard. 2 years of Avery working 3 jobs and watching her mother waste away anyway. The doctor had given them the news that morning. There was one more treatment option. Experimental, expensive, maybe a 30% chance it would work. The cost was $80,000. Insurance wouldn't cover it. Avery had $1,200 in her bank account. Hannah squeezed her daughter's hand. Baby, you need to let me go. You can't keep destroying yourself for me. Avery shook her head. I'm not giving up on you, Mom. I'm not. But she didn't know where the money would come from. She'd already taken out every loan she qualified for, already sold everything valuable she owned, already begged every charity and assistance program in the city. The answer was always the same. We're sorry. We can't help. That night, Avery sat in the hospital cafeteria 2 in the morning, staring at her phone. She'd been scrolling through options she never thought she'd consider. Desperate options, degrading options, the kind of things you do when someone you love is dying and you're out of choices. That's when she saw the card. Someone had left it on the table. Elegant, expensive cardstock, a phone number, and 3 words. Discreet, respectful, generous. Avery knew what it was. An escort service. High-end. The kind that catered to men with more money than morals. The kind of thing she'd always judged from a comfortable distance. She picked up the card, put it down, picked it up again. Thought about her mother's face. Thought about 30% chance. Thought about what she was willing to do to buy her mother more time. She made the call. 2 days later, Avery stood in the lobby of the Grandstone Hotel wearing a dress she'd borrowed and makeup that didn't quite hide how terrified she was. A woman named Dominique, elegant and cold, gave her instructions. Room 214. His name is Charlie. He requested someone kind, someone who doesn't do this regularly. He's grieving. Be gentle with him. Avery took the elevator up, walked down the hall, knocked on the door, told herself she could do this. For Mom, for 30% chance, for hope. The door opened. The man standing there was younger than she expected. Maybe 35, handsome in that polished, expensive way. But his eyes looked destroyed, swollen, red, like he'd been crying for days. He looked at her. "Are you Avery?" She nodded. He stepped aside. "Come in, please." The room was a suite, huge, overlooking the city. There was an unopened bottle of wine on the table, soft music playing, everything set up for seduction. But Charlie just stood in the middle of the room looking lost. Avery didn't know what to say. "Are you okay?" He laughed. It was a bitter, broken sound. No, I'm not okay. I buried my son today. Well, not buried. We cremated him. He wasn't even born yet. 6 months in the womb, but he was my son. And now he's ashes in a box. And my wife can't even look at me, because every time she does, she sees what we lost. Oh, no, I'm not okay. Avery felt something crack in her chest. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Charlie wiped his eyes. "I shouldn't have called. This is stupid. I don't even know what I'm doing here. I couldn't go home. I couldn't sit in that house with all that grief. I needed to be anywhere else, with anyone who didn't know, anyone who wouldn't look at me with pity." He pulled out his wallet. "I'll still pay you. For your time. You came all the way here." Avery should have taken the money and left. That would have been smart. Safe. But instead, she sat down on the couch. "You don't have to pay me to sit with you. If you need someone to talk to, I can do that." And so they talked. For hours. Charlie told her about Lucas, about the miscarriages, about the distance growing between him and his wife, about the guilt eating him alive because part of him blamed himself, even though the doctors said it wasn't anyone's fault. Avery told him about her mother, about the cancer, about feeling helpless, about the impossible math of poverty and terminal illness. Somewhere around midnight, Charlie asked, "How much do you need? For your mother's treatment?" Avery hesitated. 80,000. He pulled out his phone, transferred the money. Just like that, $80,000 appearing in her account like magic, like it meant nothing to him and everything to her. Avery started crying. "I can't. This is too much. I can't accept this." Charlie shook his head. "Yes, you can. Let me do this one good thing. Please, let me save someone's mother, since I couldn't save my own son." The wine bottle finally got opened. They kept talking. The conversation shifted from grief to something lighter. Memories of better times, stories about childhood, laughter breaking through the sadness. And somewhere in those hours, the space between them got smaller. Charlie reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Thank you. For tonight. For listening. For not treating me like I'm broken. You are broken. We both are. But maybe that's okay for tonight." He leaned in. She didn't pull away. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, then deeper, hungry. Two people who'd been drowning finally finding air. They moved to the bedroom. What happened next wasn't transactional. It wasn't what Avery had come here to do. It was just two broken people reaching for comfort in the only way they knew how. Grief and gratitude and loneliness and need all tangled together into something neither of them had planned. Afterward, they lay in the dark, not speaking. Charlie held her like she was something precious. Avery let herself pretend, just for a few hours, that she wasn't alone. That someone cared. That this meant something more than it did. She fell asleep in his arms. When she woke up the next morning, Charlie was gone. There was a note on the pillow. I hope your mother beats this. Thank you for last night, for listening, for being kind, for reminding me I'm still human. I'm sorry I can't be more than this moment. I have a family I need to try to fix. Be well, Avery. She never saw him again, never tried to contact him, use the money for her mother's treatment. Hannah lived 6 more months. The experimental therapy failed, but Avery got 6 more months of conversations, and I love yous and memories, and she was grateful. Then, 2 months after her mother died, Avery took a pregnancy test, and her whole world changed again. She sat on the bathroom floor of her tiny apartment, staring at 2 pink lines, and knew exactly what she had to do. Charlie Rogers had a wife. He had daughters. He had a family he was trying to save, and Avery had seen the grief in his eyes. She couldn't add to it, couldn't destroy what he was trying to rebuild, couldn't show up with consequences to a moment he probably regretted, so she didn't call, didn't ask for help, didn't tell him he was going to be a father again. She just disappeared, changed her phone number, moved to a different part of the city, built a life in the shadows. Tom was born on a rainy Tuesday in March. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Perfect. Beautiful, with amber eyes that looked exactly like his father's. Avery held him and made a promise. It's just you and me, baby. And that's going to be enough. I'm going to love you enough for 2 parents. And she did. For 5 years, Avery loved that little boy with everything she had. She worked 2 jobs, stretched every dollar, watered down milk when money was tight, wore the same winter coat for 3 years so Tom could have new shoes, read him stories every night, taught him to be kind, raised him in a 1-bedroom apartment filled with more love than some mansions ever see. Tom grew up sweet, curious, obsessed with dinosaurs. He drew pictures constantly. T-Rexes protecting their babies, families of Triceratops. He'd ask questions about his father sometimes. Where is he? Why doesn't he live with us? And Avery would say, he's a good man who didn't know about you. And that's okay. We're okay. You and me. We're a team. Tom would nod. Okay, Mama. We're a team. Avery thought they'd be okay. She really did. They were poor, but they were happy. Struggling, but surviving. Making it work. And then Tom collapsed at school. The call came at 2:15 on a Thursday afternoon. Miss Steele, this is Principal Morrison. Tom fainted during recess. The ambulance is taking him to County General. You need to come now. Avery ran, left work without clocking out, sprinted 6 blocks to the bus stop, took the longest bus ride of her life to the hospital, found her son in the emergency room, small and pale, hooked up to machines she didn't understand. A nurse met her outside the room. We're running tests. The doctor will be with you soon. Soon turned into 2 hours. 2 hours of Avery sitting beside Tom's bed, holding his little hand, watching him sleep. He looked so small, so fragile, like something precious that might break. Dr. Sarah Wilson finally came in. She was young, kind-faced, professional. She sat down and spoke gently. Miss Steele, we have Tom's test results. I'm afraid it's serious. Avery's throat closed. What is it? Acute lymphoblastic leukemia. It's a cancer of the blood and bone marrow. In children, it's aggressive, but it's also very treatable. With proper care, the survival rate is quite high. The word cancer hit Avery like a fist. Cancer. Her baby had cancer. How is that possible? He was fine yesterday. Dr. Wilson explained. Sometimes symptoms are subtle. Fatigue, bruising, paleness, things that seem normal until they're not. Avery forced herself to focus. Okay. What do we do? What's the treatment? Chemotherapy, possibly radiation, maybe a bone marrow transplant depending on how he responds. We need to start immediately. This type of leukemia moves fast. Avery nodded. Okay. Start. Do whatever you need to do. Dr. Wilson hesitated. There's one more thing we need to discuss. The cost. Treatment for pediatric all typically runs between $300,000 and $500,000 over the course of 2 to 3 years. Do you have insurance? Avery felt the floor drop out from under her. Yes, basic coverage. Through my job. Dr. Wilson's face was sympathetic. Basic plans usually cover about 60%, which means you'd be responsible for the remaining $150,000 to $200,000. And there are often caps and exclusions. We have financial counselors who can help you explore options, payment plans, charity care, assistance programs. Avery did the math in her head. She had $800 in savings. She made $32,000 a year working 2 jobs. There was no universe in which she could afford this, no possible scenario where the numbers worked. But she smiled anyway, because that's what mothers do. They smile so their children don't see the terror. Okay. Thank you, doctor. We'll figure it out. Dr. Wilson touched her shoulder. We'll do everything we can for him. He's young. He's strong. Kids are fighters. After the doctor left, Avery sat beside Tom's bed and watched him sleep. He looked peaceful, innocent, like he had no idea his body was betraying him, like he still believed the world was safe because his mama would protect him. And Avery realized she couldn't. Not this time. Not from this. She couldn't fight cancer with love. She couldn't cure leukemia with determination. She needed money. A staggering, impossible amount of money. And she had none. That night, after Tom fell asleep, Avery walked to the hospital chapel. It was empty. Dim. Quiet. She sat in the back pew and tried to pray. She wasn't religious. Hadn't been to church since her mother's funeral. But desperate people reach for anything. God, if you're there, if you're listening, I need help. I need a miracle. I need my son to live, and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to save him. Please, please show me what to do. The chapel stayed silent. No burning bush, no divine voice, just Avery alone with her fear. She pulled out her phone, Googled Charlie Rogers, found him immediately, CEO of Rogers Tech, married to Quinn Rogers, philanthropist and socialite, 2 daughters, Dorothy and Ella. Net worth estimated at $900 million. There were photos. Charlie at charity events. Charlie accepting awards. Charlie with his arm around his beautiful wife, both of them smiling like people who'd never known real suffering. Avery stared at the photos, at the man she'd spent one night with 5 years ago, the man who'd saved her mother with a phone transfer, the man who'd cried in her arms about his lost son, the man who'd made love to her like she mattered, the man who had no idea he had another son fighting for his life in a hospital across the city. She still had his business card. She'd kept it all these years, tucked in her wallet behind Tom's baby picture. She pulled it out now, ran her thumb over the embossed letters. Charles T. Rogers, CEO, a phone number that probably didn't work anymore, an address to an office building downtown. Avery had promised herself she'd never contact him, never disrupt his life, never tell him about Tom. She'd made that choice, and she'd lived with it. But that was before cancer, before $300,000, before a 48-hour deadline to start treatment or watch her son's chances drop. She looked at the card, looked at her phone, thought about Quinn Rogers and those 2 little girls who had no idea their lives were about to be destroyed, thought about showing up at someone's door and detonating their entire world. Then she thought about Tom, sweet, gentle Tom, who drew dinosaurs and asked questions and trusted his mama to keep him safe. Tom, who was sleeping upstairs in a hospital bed, poison growing in his blood, waiting for someone to save him. And Avery made the only choice a mother could make. She opened Google Maps, typed in Charlie's address, Willow Heights, 23 minutes away. She borrowed a car from her friend Maria, drove across the city, from her neighborhood, where the streetlights were broken and the buildings were covered in graffiti, to Willow Heights, where the houses looked like castles and the lawns looked like golf courses. She found the address, pulled up to the gate, sat in the car staring at the intercom button. Her hand was shaking, her heart was pounding. She knew what she was about to do, knew the damage she was about to cause, knew there was no going back. But Tom was dying, and she was out of options. And sometimes love means doing the terrible thing because it's the only thing left. Avery pressed the button. Inside the house, Quinn was making coffee. Charlie was reading something on his phone. Their daughters were upstairs getting ready for school. Everything was normal, ordinary, perfect. And then the intercom buzzed, and everything ended. Quinn pressed the button. "Hello?" Avery's voice came out shaky. Please, I need to speak to Charlie Rogers. It's about his son." Quinn frowned. "His son? We don't have a son. We have 2 daughters. I think you have the wrong house." No, I have the right house. His son, the son he made with me 5 years ago. Please, he's dying. Your husband's son is dying, and I don't know what else to do." The words hung in the air like smoke. Quinn stood frozen. Charlie looked up from his phone. Avery pressed Tom's hospital photo against the security camera, waited, prayed, hoped she hadn't just destroyed 3 families for nothing. The gate buzzed. It swung open. Avery put the car in drive and started up the long driveway toward the house, toward the man who could save her son, toward the woman whose life she was about to shatter, toward the moment everything changed. She parked, got out, walked to the front door. It opened before she could knock. Quinn stood there, tall, beautiful, expensively dressed, and absolutely devastated. Her face was bloodless. Her eyes were wide. Behind her, Charlie appeared. He saw Avery and stopped breathing. Quinn's voice was ice. "Who are you?" Avery forced herself to speak. "My name is Avery Steele. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but I need to talk to your husband. It's about our son." Charlie stepped forward. His hands were shaking. "Avery, what are you doing here?" Quinn turned to him. "You know her?" Charlie's face crumbled. It was one time, 5 years ago, after Lucas. I wasn't thinking straight. I made a terrible mistake." Avery held out her phone, showed them both the picture of Tom in the hospital bed. "This is Tom. He's 5 years old. He has leukemia. He needs treatment immediately. I wouldn't be here if there was any other way. I swear, I tried everything else. But he's dying, and I can't save him alone." Quinn stared at the photo. Her breath came out in short gasps. "She's lying. She has to be lying. This is some kind of scam." Charlie took the phone, looked at Tom's face, at those amber eyes staring back at him, at the shape of the nose, the curve of the mouth, at his own face reflected in a child he didn't know existed. "Oh my God, he looks exactly like me, like Dorothy, when she was little." Quinn snatched the phone back, looked at the photo again, made a sound that was half sob, half scream. No, this isn't happening." From upstairs, a small voice called out, "Mommy? Why are you yelling?" Quinn's whole body went rigid. She turned toward the stairs. Her daughters were standing at the top, confused and scared. Quinn forced her voice to steady. "Go back to your room, girls. Mommy's just dealing with something. I'll be up in a minute." Dorothy, the older one, didn't move. "Who's that lady?" Quinn's voice got sharp. "Dorothy, I said, go to your room. Now." The girls disappeared. Quinn waited until she heard their door close. Then she turned back to Avery. Her face was pure fury. "Do you have any idea what you just did? Do you have any concept of what you just destroyed?" Avery stood her ground. I know exactly what this is, but my son is dying. He has 48 hours to start treatment, or his chances drop to almost nothing. I need $300,000. I have 800. I don't have family. I don't have options. I have a dying little boy who doesn't deserve this. So yes, I know what I'm doing. I'm destroying your perfect life to save my son's actual life." Quinn stepped closer. Her voice dropped to something dangerous. "You were supposed to stay away. Women like you take the money and you disappear. That's the deal. You don't show up 5 years later with consequences. Avery's voice hardened. I didn't take any money. Charlie transferred $80,000 the night we met, but that was for my mother's cancer treatment. She died anyway. I never asked him for anything after that. I never contacted him. I raised Tom alone. I worked 2 jobs. I did everything myself because I didn't want to ruin his life. But this isn't about pride anymore. This is about my son's life. Charlie finally found his voice. How much do you need? Quinn spun toward him. Don't you dare. Charlie ignored her. How much, Avery? 300,000 for the immediate treatment. Maybe more later depending on how he responds. Charlie pulled out his phone. I'll make the call now. I'll have the money transferred to the hospital within the hour. Quinn grabbed his arm. If you do this, we're done. Do you understand me, Charlie? If you give her money, if you help this child, our marriage is over. Charlie looked at his wife. Tears ran down his face. Quinn, he's my son. You don't know that. This could be a scam. She could be lying. Look at him, Quinn. Look at the picture. That's my face. Those are my eyes. He looks like our daughters. You know it's true. Quinn's voice broke. We have daughters, Charlie. 2 daughters upstairs who just heard their mother screaming. 2 little girls whose lives you're about to destroy for a child you didn't even know existed. Charlie's voice was barely a whisper. I can't let him die. Even if it costs me everything else, I can't let that little boy die. Quinn let go of his arm. Fine, do what you have to do. But when you're done playing hero, don't come home. Don't call. Don't try to fix this. We're done. She turned and walked upstairs. A moment later, they heard a door slam. Charlie stood in the foyer, phone in his hand, looking shattered. Avery stood in the doorway, guilt and relief warring in her chest. Charlie made the call, transferred the money, contacted the hospital directly, spoke to Dr. Wilson, arranged for the best pediatric oncology team in the state, made it all happen in 15 minutes because money is magic when you have enough of it. When he hung up, he looked at Avery. Can I see him? Can I meet my son? Avery nodded. Yes, of course. He's been asking about his father for years. I always told him you were a good man who didn't know about him. Charlie's face crumpled. I didn't. I swear, Avery, I didn't know. If I had known, I would have. I don't know what I would have done. But I wouldn't have left you to do this alone. I know. I believe you. What's he like? Tom? Avery smiled for the first time since arriving. He's sweet. So sweet. He loves dinosaurs. He draws constantly. He asks a million questions. He's gentle and curious, and he gives the best hugs. He's the best thing I ever did. Charlie wiped his eyes. I want to be part of his life, however that looks, whatever you're comfortable with. But I don't want to be an absent father. Not again. Okay, we'll figure it out. After he's better. First, we have to make sure he survives. He will. I'll make sure he has the best care. Whatever he needs. Whatever you both need. Avery nodded. She should leave. Should get back to the hospital. But she had to say it. I'm sorry for what I just did to your family. I'm so sorry. Charlie shook his head. You did what any mother would do. You saved your son. Don't apologize for that. Avery walked back to the borrowed car. Drove back across the city. Back to the hospital where Tom was waking up. Where Dr. Wilson was waiting with authorization to begin treatment. Where nurses were prepping chemo protocols. Where her son's life was being saved by a man whose life she just destroyed. Tom was groggy when she got back to his room. Mama? Where did you go? Avery kissed his forehead. I went to fix everything, baby. The doctors are going to start your treatment. You're going to be okay. Tom's eyes were heavy. Did you find my daddy? The question punched the air from her lungs. Yes, sweetheart. Yes, I found him. Is he nice? He's very nice, and he wants to meet you. When you're feeling better, okay? Okay, Mama. Tom fell back asleep. Avery sat beside his bed and finally let herself cry. Relief that treatment was starting. Guilt for what she'd done. Fear for what came next. Grief for the family she'd shattered. all of it pouring out in the quiet of a hospital room while her son slept and nurses moved in the hallway, and somewhere, across the city, a marriage was ending because she'd chosen her child's life over a stranger's happiness, and she'd make the same choice again, every single time, because that's what mothers do. They save their children, even when it costs everything, even when it makes them the villain in someone else's story. Meanwhile, at the Rogers estate, Quinn sat on the edge of her bed and stared at nothing. Downstairs, she could hear Charlie on the phone, making arrangements, taking control, doing what he always did when there was a problem to solve. Except this wasn't a problem. This was a child, a 5-year-old boy who looked like her daughters, who had Charlie's eyes, who existed as proof that her husband had betrayed her in the worst moment of their marriage. Dorothy knocked softly, came in without waiting for permission. "Mama, are you okay?" Quinn pulled her daughter close. "I'm fine, baby. Everything's fine. Who was that lady?" "Just someone who needed Daddy's help." "Why were you yelling?" "Because sometimes grown-ups get upset. But it's going to be okay." Except it wasn't. And Quinn knew it. This wasn't something you recovered from. This wasn't a bump in the road. This was the end. The absolute final end of everything she'd built. Her marriage, her perfect life, her illusion that she was safe. She thought about the little boy in the hospital, about his mother working 2 jobs and raising him alone, about the desperation it must have taken to show up at a stranger's door and confess a 5-year-old secret, about the choice between pride and survival. And somewhere underneath the rage and betrayal, Quinn felt something else, something she didn't want to acknowledge. Respect for a woman who'd done the impossible thing to save her child. But respect didn't fix this. Respect didn't unshatter her world. Respect didn't make her husband faithful or her marriage whole. So Quinn held her daughter and made a decision. She'd pack, she'd take the girls, she'd go to her mother's house, and she'd file for divorce. Because some betrayals don't get forgiven. Some breaks don't get mended. Some endings are final. Downstairs, Charlie hung up the phone, sat in his study, looked at the picture Avery had left with him, Tom smiling at the camera in some moment before he got sick. A little boy who looked so much like Dorothy, it hurt. A son he'd never known. A child who might die. A family fractured beyond repair because of one terrible night 5 years ago. He thought about calling Quinn, begging her to understand. But what would he even say? "I'm sorry didn't cover this." There were no words big enough for this kind of betrayal. So he just sat there, in the wreckage of his perfect life, knowing he'd destroyed everything, knowing he'd do it again anyway, because that little boy was his son, and you don't let your child die, not even to save your marriage. The news broke 3 days later. Someone at the hospital leaked it. Or maybe it was a neighbor who saw Avery's car at the Rogers estate. Or maybe it was just the way secrets always find their way into the light. However it happened, by Friday morning, the story was everywhere. Billionaire tech CEO's secret love child battling cancer. Charlie Rogers' hidden son revealed after 5 years. Escort reveals Rogers' illegitimate child, demands hundreds of thousands. The headlines got worse from there. Avery's face was plastered across gossip sites. Her address was published. Reporters camped outside her apartment building. They called her a gold digger, a homewrecker, a prostitute who trapped a married man. They called Tom a bastard, a scandal, the product of infidelity. Everything Avery had feared for 5 years came true in 72 hours. She stopped reading after the first day, stopped looking at her phone, focused entirely on Tom, on the chemo starting, on the nurses coming in and out, on holding her son's hand while poison dripped into his veins to kill the poison already inside him. Tom didn't understand why his mama kept crying. "Mama, why are you sad?" "The doctors are making me better." Avery would wipe her eyes and smile. "I'm not sad, baby. I'm grateful. These are happy tears." But they weren't. They were tears of shame and relief and terror, all mixed together. Relief that treatment had started. Terror that it might not work. Shame that the whole world now knew her story and judged her for it. Charlie came to the hospital that first week. He wore a baseball cap and sunglasses, trying to avoid recognition. It didn't work. Cameras followed him. Reporters shouted questions. Is it true? Is the boy yours? Are you divorcing your wife? Did you pay her to keep quiet? He ignored them all. Walked through the hospital doors. Took the elevator to the pediatric oncology ward. Found room 487. Stood outside the door for 5 full minutes, trying to find the courage to go in. Finally, he knocked. Avery opened it. She looked exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing the same clothes she'd had on yesterday. But when she saw him, she stepped aside. Come in. Charlie walked in. And there, in the bed by the window, was his son. Tom was awake, watching cartoons on a tablet. He was small for 5 years old, pale from the chemo, but those eyes, those amber eyes, turned toward the door and looked right at Charlie. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Tom said, "Are you my daddy?" Charlie's throat closed. He managed to nod. Yes, I am." Tom studied him seriously. "You look like me. We have the same eyes." Charlie moved closer to the bed. Sat in the chair beside it. "We do. And apparently we have the same nose too. And the same," he pointed at Tom's chin, "same little dimple right here." Tom touched his own chin, then smiled. It was a small smile, tired but genuine. "Mama said you're a good man who didn't know about me." "That's true. I didn't know. But I know now, and I'm so glad I get to meet you. Are you going to help me get better?" Charlie's voice broke. "I'm going to do everything I can. The doctors here are the best in the whole country, and they're going to take very good care of you." Tom nodded. "That's good. I don't want to die. I have a lot of dinosaur books I haven't read yet." Charlie laughed through his tears. "Well, we definitely can't let that happen. What's your favorite dinosaur?" "T-Rex, because they're strong and they protect their families." "That's a good choice." "Mine too." They talked for an hour, about dinosaurs, about Tom's drawings, about his favorite foods and his best friend at school, and the dog he wanted to get someday when they had enough money. Tom didn't mention the cancer, didn't talk about being scared. He was just a little boy, excited to finally meet his father, asking a million questions. "Do you like pizza? Do you know how to draw? Do you have a dog? Why do you live so far away? Can you come visit me every day?" Charlie answered every question, and with each answer, he felt something cracking open in his chest. This was his son, this little boy who loved dinosaurs and asked questions and had his eyes. This child had been alive for 5 years, and Charlie had missed all of it. First steps, first words, birthdays, Christmases, every single moment. Gone. When Tom started to get tired, his eyes drooping, Charlie stood to leave. But Tom grabbed his hand. "Will you come back? Every day. I promise. Every single day until you're better." "Okay." Tom's eyes closed. "That's good. I like you. I like you too, buddy." In the hallway, Charlie leaned against the wall and cried. Avery came out and stood beside him. She didn't say anything, just stood there while he broke down. Finally, he wiped his face. "He's incredible. You did an amazing job raising him. Thank you. I meant what I said. I'm going to be here, every day. However this looks, whatever you're comfortable with. I want to be his father." Avery nodded. "He deserves that." "So do you. You deserve help, support. You shouldn't have had to do this alone. I made that choice because you thought it was the right thing. And maybe it was. I don't know. But we can't change the past. We can only move forward from here." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Charlie said, "Quinn left. Took the girls to her mother's. She's filing for divorce." Avery's face fell. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. She has every right. I destroyed our marriage. That's on me, not you." "Still, I'm sorry." Charlie looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who'd carried his child alone, who'd worked 2 jobs to provide, who'd kept his secret to protect his family, who'd only broken her silence to save their son's life. She could have come after him years ago, could have demanded money, recognition, support. But she hadn't. She'd chosen the hard road, the lonely road, the road that protected everyone except herself. "You're a good person, Avery. I hope you know that. You're a really good person." Avery didn't answer, just went back into Tom's room, back to the chair beside his bed, back to the vigil she'd been keeping since the diagnosis. And Charlie went home to an empty house that used to be full of family and was now full of nothing but regret. But family, this is where the story takes a turn, because Quinn Rogers was a lot of things: heartbroken, betrayed, angry, but she wasn't cruel, and she wasn't the kind of woman who punished innocent children for their father's sins. 2 weeks after leaving, Quinn was sitting in her mother's living room watching Dorothy and Ella play when her phone rang. It was Dr. Wilson from the hospital. "Mrs. Rogers, I'm calling about Tom Steele. I'm his oncologist." Quinn's whole body went cold. "Why are you calling me?" "Because Tom needs a bone marrow transplant. We've tested both biological parents, and neither is an ideal match. But siblings have a 25% chance of being a perfect match. I know this is complicated, but if you'd be willing to have your daughters tested, it could save Tom's life." Quinn closed her eyes. "You want me to let you test my daughters to see if they can save my husband's illegitimate child?" Dr. Wilson's voice was gentle. "I know what I'm asking, and I know it's not fair, but Tom is your daughter's half-brother, and he's 5 years old, and he's dying. If there's any chance they could help, I had to ask." Quinn hung up, sat there staring at nothing. Her mother came into the room. "What's wrong?" "They want to test Dorothy and Ella to see if they can donate bone marrow to that boy." Her mother's face hardened. "Absolutely not. You tell them no. That child is not your responsibility. He's their brother. He's a stranger, a reminder of your husband's betrayal. You don't owe him anything." But Quinn kept thinking about it. Night, the next day, all week, she thought about the photo Avery had shown her. That little boy in the hospital bed. Those eyes that looked like her daughter's eyes. That face that could have been Ella's face. That child who existed through no fault of his own. She thought about Lucas, about the son she'd lost, about how desperately she'd wanted him to live, about what she would have done, who she would have destroyed, what she would have sacrificed if it could have saved him. And she thought about Dorothy and Ella, about teaching them right from wrong, about showing them what grace looks like, about raising them to be the kind of women who do hard things because they're the right things. 3 days later, Quinn drove to the hospital. She didn't tell anyone she was coming, didn't call ahead, just showed up at the pediatric oncology ward and asked for room 487. Avery was sitting beside Tom's bed when Quinn walked in. She stood up immediately, defensive. "What are you doing here?" Quinn ignored her, looked at the bed, at the little boy sleeping there. He was smaller than she expected, frailer. His head was bald from the chemo. His skin was pale. IV lines ran from his arms. Monitors beeped softly. He looked so vulnerable, so innocent. Quinn moved closer, stood beside the bed, really looked at him, and her breath caught. He looks like Ella when she was 3. The same nose, the same mouth. Oh God, he really is Charlie's son. Tom stirred, opened his eyes, saw Quinn standing there, blinked sleepily. "Are you the pretty sad lady?" Quinn's composure cracked. "What? You look pretty, but also sad, like you've been crying a lot." Quinn sat down in the chair. Her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. Yes, I have been sad." "Why?" Because life is complicated sometimes." Tom nodded like he understood. "My mama is sad too, but she pretends she's not. She thinks I don't notice, but I do. You're a smart boy." "Thank you." Tom looked at her more closely. "Are you Dorothy and Ella's mom?" Quinn's throat closed. "Yes. How do you know about them?" "My daddy told me. He said, I have 2 sisters. He showed me pictures. They're pretty like you. They're wonderful girls. Can I meet them? I always wanted a brother or sister, but now I have 2 sisters. That's even better." The innocent question hit Quinn like a physical blow. She looked at this child, this little boy who'd done nothing wrong, who was fighting for his life, who just wanted to meet his sisters, and something inside her shifted. He's just a baby. He's not the affair. He's not the betrayal. He's not the end of my marriage. He's just a sick little boy who wants to live. Tom pulled out a drawing from beside his bed. I made this for them. It's a T-Rex family. The big T-Rex in the middle is protecting all the little ones. That's what families do. They protect each other. He handed it to Quinn. The drawing was crude, done in crayon by a 5-year-old hand. But the message was clear. A parent protecting children. All the children. Not just some of them. Quinn took the drawing. Held it carefully. It's beautiful. They'll love it. Really, really. Will you give it to them for me? Yes, I will. Tom smiled. Then his eyes started to close again. The chemo made him tired all the time. Quinn stood to leave, but before she reached the door, she turned to Avery. I'll bring the girls in. For testing. If one of them is a match, I'll allow the transplant. Avery's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. Thank you so much. Quinn's voice hardened. I'm not doing this for you. I'm not doing it for Charlie. I'm doing it because that little boy in there is innocent, and because if my daughters can save their brother, I won't stand in the way. But after this, we're done. You keep your distance from my family. Understood? Understood. Quinn left, walked to her car, sat in the parking lot, and cried for her broken marriage, for the innocence of children, for the impossible situation they were all in, for the little boy inside who looked at her with Charlie's eyes and called her pretty and didn't understand why the adults in his life were so complicated. She drove to her mother's house, sat Dorothy and Ella down, told them they had a brother, told them he was sick, asked if they'd be willing to help. Dorothy, serious and thoughtful at 8 years old, asked, "Will it hurt?" "A little bit, but not too much, and the doctors will be very careful. And it will save him? Our brother? It might. If you're a match." Dorothy didn't hesitate. "Then, I want to do it. He's family. That's what family does." Ella, always following her big sister's lead, nodded. "Me, too. I want to help." 2 days later, all 3 children were tested. Charlie and Avery and Quinn all waited in a consultation room while the lab ran the results. The 3 of them sat in awkward silence. Not enemies exactly, but not allies either. Just 3 people bound together by circumstances none of them wanted. Dr. Wilson came in holding a file. Her face was neutral, professional. "I have the results. Ella is not a match. But Dorothy, you're a perfect 6 out of 6 match. You're the best possible donor for Tom." Dorothy looked at her mother. "Does that mean I can save him?" Quinn gripped her daughter's hand. "Yes, baby. That means you can save him. Then I want to do it." The transplant was scheduled for 3 weeks later. They had to get Tom's cancer into remission first. 3 weeks of intense chemotherapy. 3 weeks of Tom getting sicker before he could get better. 3 weeks of Avery not leaving his side. 3 weeks of Charlie visiting every single day. 3 weeks of Quinn preparing Dorothy for what was coming. Tom and Dorothy met a week before the transplant. Charlie brought his daughters to the hospital. Ella hid behind Quinn, shy and uncertain. But Dorothy walked right up to Tom's bed. "Hi, I'm Dorothy. I'm your sister." Tom's face lit up. "Really? You're really my sister?" "Really, really. And this is Ella. She's our other sister. She's shy." Ella peeked out from behind Quinn, gave a small wave. Tom waved back. "I'm glad you're here." Tom pulled out his drawings. "Do you want to see my dinosaurs?" Dorothy climbed into the chair beside his bed. "Yes, I love dinosaurs." They spent an hour together, Dorothy showing Tom pictures of her school, Tom showing Dorothy his artwork, Ella eventually joining in, the shyness melting away. 3 children who shared DNA and a father and nothing else, finding connection in the simple way kids do. When it was time to leave, Dorothy hugged Tom carefully. "Don't worry, I'm going to make you better." Tom hugged her back. "Thank you. You're the best sister ever." Quinn watched from the doorway, watched her daughter love this little boy without hesitation, without resentment, without any of the complicated adult emotions, just pure sibling love. And she knew she'd made the right choice. Even if it hurt, even if it was hard, even if it meant facing the proof of her husband's betrayal over and over, she'd made the right choice. The day of the transplant came. Dorothy went first. They took her to a surgical room and put her under anesthesia, used a large needle to extract bone marrow from her hip. It took about an hour. When she woke up, she was groggy and in pain, but the first thing she asked was, "Did it work? Did I get enough?" The doctors assured her she'd done perfectly. "You were so brave, Dorothy. You just saved your brother's life." Dorothy smiled through the pain. Good. That's what big sisters are supposed to do. In another room, Tom was getting high-dose chemotherapy, wiping out what was left of his immune system, making space for Dorothy's cells to take root. Avery held his hand through all of it. Charlie stood on the other side of the bed. Both of them terrified, both of them hoping, both of them praying to whatever might be listening. Finally, they brought in the bag of bone marrow. It looked like blood, dark red, thick. It hung on an IV pole beside Tom's bed. The nurses hooked it up, and slowly, so slowly, Dorothy's cells dripped into Tom's body. New life, new hope, a sister saving a brother she barely knew. Tom was mostly asleep through it, mumbled halfway through, "Tell Dorothy thank you. Tell her she's the best sister ever." Avery wiped her eyes. "We'll tell her, baby. We'll tell her." The next 48 hours were critical. They had to watch for rejection, for complications, for any sign that Tom's body wasn't accepting the gift. Avery didn't sleep, didn't eat, just sat beside Tom's bed and watched every breath, every heartbeat, every flicker of his eyes. Charlie stayed too, brought coffee, brought food Avery wouldn't eat, sat with her in the silence. On the second night, he said, "Thank you for raising him, for protecting him, for being the kind of mother who'd do anything to save her child." Avery looked at him. "You would have done the same, if you'd known." "I hope so. I want to believe I would have. But I'll never know for sure. All those years I missed, I can't get them back. No. But you can be here for the years ahead." "I will be. I promise you, Avery. I'm not going anywhere." On the third day, Dr. Wilson came in with results. Her face was cautiously optimistic. "The transplant is taking. Tom's body is accepting Dorothy's cells. Engraftment is proceeding exactly as we hoped." Avery collapsed into Charlie's arms. Just collapsed. All the fear and stress and terror of the last month pouring out in huge, gasping sobs. Charlie held her, let her cry, cried himself, because their son was going to live. Their little boy was going to survive. He's going to be okay. Charlie said it like a prayer, like a promise, like something he was willing into existence. He's going to be okay. Tom woke up a few minutes later, saw his parents crying, got worried. "Mama? Daddy? Why are you sad?" Avery laughed through her tears. "We're not sad, baby. We're happy. So happy. You're getting better. Dorothy's cells are working. You're going to be okay." Tom smiled. His skin was still pale, his body still weak, but there was something different in his eyes. Strength, life. "I knew she'd save me. Big sisters are magic." Yes, they are. Yes, they are. In another part of the hospital, Dorothy was recovering from her procedure. Quinn sat beside her bed, holding her hand. "You did a wonderful thing, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you. Does Tom know that I helped him?" "He knows, and he's so grateful. He said you're the best sister ever." Dorothy smiled, closed her eyes, drifted back to sleep, and Quinn sat there, looking at her brave, generous, beautiful daughter, and felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Peace, not happiness, not forgiveness, but peace. The peace that comes from doing the right thing, even when it costs you everything. The news covered the transplant. The headlines changed. From scandal to redemption. From gold digger to miracle. They called Dorothy a hero. called the Rogers family brave, turned the whole mess into a feel-good story about siblings saving siblings. But inside the mess, inside the hospital rooms and broken marriages and complicated relationships, it wasn't feel-good. It was just hard, really, really hard, and everyone was doing their best to survive it. Tom stayed in the hospital for 6 more weeks, isolation to prevent infection while his new immune system developed. Avery stayed with him every day. Charlie visited constantly. Dorothy and Ella came to the window to visit, making silly faces through the glass, holding up new drawings, talking to Tom through the intercom. The bond between the 3 children grew. They were siblings in the truest sense, protective of each other, excited to talk to each other, missing each other when they were apart. They didn't care about the scandal, didn't understand the complexity. They just knew they were brother and sisters, and that was enough. Finally, after 6 weeks, Dr. Wilson gave the okay for Tom to go home. His counts were good. The cancer was in remission. He'd need ongoing treatment for years, checkups, monitoring, but the immediate crisis was over. He'd survived. Discharge day was chaos. Media everywhere. Cameras. Questions. Charlie arranged a back exit, helped Avery get Tom to the car without being seen, drove them back to their small apartment across the city. Tom walked in and looked around. His drawings were still on the refrigerator. His toys were still in the corner. His bed was still made the way he'd left it 2 months ago. He turned to Avery. I missed here. I missed here too, baby. Charlie stood in the doorway, looking at the tiny apartment, at the worn furniture and the thin curtains and the walls that needed paint. This is where his son had grown up, where Avery had raised him alone. It was small, humble, but it was full of love. You could feel it. In every corner, every detail. This was a home, maybe more of a home than his mansion in Willow Heights had ever been. Can I visit? As often as you'll let me, Avery nodded. You're his father. You're welcome any time. And so a new routine developed. Charlie came 3 times a week. Saturday mornings for dinosaur documentaries, Wednesday evenings for art sessions, bedtime phone calls every single night. He brought groceries, helped with bills. But more than that, he showed up. He was present. He learned how to be a father to the son he'd missed 5 years with. Dorothy and Ella integrated into Tom's life too. Weekend visits, sleepovers when he was strong enough, birthday parties, holidays. Quinn allowed it because she refused to punish the children for adult mistakes. She was cordial with Avery, not warm, but not hostile, respectful, functional. They were co-parenting in the strangest, most complicated way possible, but they were making it work. For the kids. Meanwhile, Quinn and Charlie's marriage continued to fracture. They tried counseling, tried talking, tried everything. But some breaks can't be fixed. Some betrayals are too big. Some trust, once broken, stays broken. Quinn couldn't look at Charlie without seeing that little boy in the hospital, without remembering the affair, without feeling the knife of betrayal twisting. 1 year after Tom's diagnosis, Quinn filed for divorce. The proceedings were as amicable as divorce can be. Joint custody of Dorothy and Ella. Fair division of assets. No fights, no drama. Just 2 people who'd loved each other once, accepting that love sometimes isn't enough. The day the divorce was finalized, Charlie sat in his empty house and cried. Not because he didn't understand. He did. Quinn deserved better than what he'd given her. Deserved a husband who was faithful. Deserved a marriage built on trust. He'd destroyed something precious. And some things, once broken, can't be repaired. They can only be grieved and released. But through it all, through the divorce and the heartbreak and the public scandal, there were his children. All 3 of them. Dorothy and Ella, who loved him despite his failures. Tom, who was thriving, getting stronger every day, whose cancer was in remission, who called him Daddy and meant it. They were his second chance, his redemption, not from Quinn. She didn't owe him forgiveness, but from himself, the chance to be better, to show up, to be the father he should have been all along. 2 years after the diagnosis, Tom was 7 years old and officially cancer-free. The doctors called it cured. Remission for 2 years meant the cancer likely wouldn't come back. His hair had grown back, curlier than before. His energy had returned. He was in school full-time, thriving academically and socially. He still loved dinosaurs, still drew constantly, still had Dorothy's bone marrow keeping him alive. Family dynamics had settled into a new normal. Tom lived with Avery in an apartment that was bigger now, nicer, because Charlie helped with rent. Not as charity, as co-parenting, as supporting his son. Avery had gone back to school, finished her graphic design degree. She was running her own small firm, not wealthy, but stable, independent, proud of what she'd built. Charlie had stepped down as CEO, moved to consulting, spent more time with his children. All 3 of them. His priorities had shifted. Presence over profit, being there over building empires. He'd learned the hard way that success means nothing if you miss your children's lives. Quinn had moved forward too. Therapy helped. Time helped. She'd rediscovered herself outside of being Charlie's wife. She was still angry sometimes, still hurt. But she'd learned that forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It means releasing the poison so you can heal. She forgave Charlie, not for his sake, but for hers, so she could move on, so she could build a new life, so her daughters could see that women can be strong and graceful and whole, even after devastation. The 3 adults were cordial now, respectful. They showed up to school events together, traded holidays, sent group texts about the kids. It wasn't traditional. It wasn't what any of them had imagined, but it was functional. And for the children's sake, that was enough. One evening, Tom's art teacher called Avery. "Your son submitted a piece to the citywide children's art exhibition. It was selected. He's one of 20 kids chosen from the entire city. The opening is next Saturday." The piece was called "The Family That Saved Me." Tom had drawn multiple hands reaching toward the center. Each hand was labeled, in his careful 7-year-old handwriting. Mama's hand, always holding mine. Dad's hand, learning to hold on. Dorothy's hand, gave me life. Ella's hand, gave me love. Quinn's hand, hurts but helps. In the center was a small child's hand, scarred from IV lines, but open, reaching back, connecting. The exhibition opening came. The entire Steele Rogers family attended, all of them. Avery and Charlie, Quinn with Dorothy and Ella, Tom in the middle, excited and proud. The first time they'd all been together in one place since the transplant. They stood in front of Tom's artwork, staring at it, at this 7-year-old's understanding of their complicated family, at his ability to see connection where adults saw problems, at his wisdom that came from almost dying and learning what really matters. Quinn spoke first. Her voice was soft. "He sees us as connected, despite everything." Avery answered, "Children see possibility where adults see problems." Quinn turned to her, made eye contact, really looked at her for the first time in 2 years. "I'm trying to see it his way. It's hard." Avery's voice was gentle. "I know." "Thank you for trying." A reporter approached. "Excuse me, you're the family from the transplant story, right? The Rogers family?" Charlie started to say no, started to protect them from more publicity, but Tom spoke up. "Yes, that's us. That's my whole family." The reporter smiled. "Could we get a photo with the artist and his family?" Tom insisted. "All of us. That's the whole family." They arranged themselves awkwardly. Tom in the center, Avery and Charlie on either side, Dorothy and Ella close, arms around their brother, Quinn slightly apart but present, not perfect, not traditional, but real. The photographer snapped the picture, and somehow, in that moment, they looked like what they were. Not a scandal, not a broken family, but a family built from broken pieces, built from brave choices, built from children's love teaching adults how to be human. The photo went viral, but this time, the headlines were different. How one family found healing. Young cancer survivors' art teaches forgiveness, from scandal to second chances. The narrative shifted, from destruction to redemption, from judgment to hope. But inside the photo, inside the real lives of the people in it, it wasn't a redemption story. It was just life, messy and complicated and hard and beautiful all at once. It was people choosing love over and over, even when it hurt, choosing to show up, choosing to do the hard thing because it was the right thing, choosing their children over their pride. And slowly, year by year, they built something that looked like family. Not the family any of them had imagined, not the family from greeting cards or sitcoms, but a real family, complicated and imperfect, and held together by effort and choice and the determination not to let the children pay for the adults' mistakes. 5 years later, Tom was 12 years old, 7 years, cancer-free, considered cured. He was in middle school, thriving academically and artistically, lanky and awkward in that preteen way. His artwork had developed. He'd won several competitions. His pieces always came back to the same theme: family, connection, love. For a school project, he created something called Family Forest. Most kids drew traditional family trees. Tom created something different: multiple tree species with roots intertwined underground and branches touching above. Each tree was labeled Mama, Dad, Quinn, Dorothy, Ella. In the center, the smallest tree, supported by all the others. Tom, and underground, where the roots connected, one word: love. His presentation to the class was confident, nervous, but sure. My family isn't simple. Most families aren't, really, but mine is complicated in a way most people don't understand. My mama raised me alone for 5 years. She worked 2 jobs and loved me enough for 2 parents. She's my whole world, my hero. Everything I am is because of her. My dad didn't know I existed until I got sick. That wasn't his fault. It wasn't anyone's fault. It was just complicated. But when he found out, he helped save me. He paid for my treatment. He showed up. He's been showing up ever since. He's a good man who made a mistake, but he's trying really hard to do better. And that matters. Quinn is my dad's ex-wife. She's Dorothy and Ella's mom. She had every reason to hate me. I'm proof of something painful in her life. But when I needed bone marrow, she let Dorothy donate hers. She let her daughter save me. That takes so much strength, so much grace. I don't think people understand how hard that must have been. But she did it anyway, because it was right, because I was innocent, because she's amazing. Dorothy gave me her bone marrow. She was 8 years old, and she let them put her to sleep and take bone marrow from her hip so I could live. She's my sister, and she literally saved my life. Every day I'm alive is because of her. Every breath, every moment. That's Dorothy. Ella makes me laugh, even when I feel bad. She sends me funny videos and makes up silly songs and reminds me that life is supposed to be fun. She's the best little sister anyone could ask for. Tom turned his poster so the class could see the roots spelling love. Trees in a forest are stronger together. Scientists have proven it. Their roots connect underground through something called mycorrhizal networks. They share nutrients. They communicate. They help each other grow. When one tree is sick, the others send it food through the roots. When one is weak, the others support it. That's what we do. That's what family does. We're stronger together. We're not a normal family, but we're a family that chose each other, even when it was hard, even when it hurt, even when it would have been easier to walk away. We chose love, and that's what makes us strong. The class erupted in applause. Tom's teacher wiped her eyes. Even some of the students looked moved. Tom had taken his complicated, messy, scandal-born family and turned it into art, into wisdom, into proof that broken things can be beautiful. After school, there was a family gathering. All of them came, Avery and Charlie beaming with pride, Dorothy and Ella hugging their brother, Quinn watching from a distance, her face soft. Dorothy ruffled Tom's hair. "You made us cry, you know, in a good way." Ella nodded. "Yeah, that was really good, Tom." Tom grinned. "Did you like the part where I said you make me laugh?" "Loved it." Avery pulled him into a hug. "I'm so proud of you. So proud." Charlie joined the hug. Me too, buddy. You're incredible. Quinn approached slowly. She and Tom had a respectful but distant relationship. Cordial, functional, but Tom had never pushed for more, seemed to understand that she needed space, respected it. But now, she stood in front of him. That was a beautiful presentation, Tom. You're very wise for 12 years old. Tom smiled. Thank you. I meant what I said about you being strong. I know this isn't easy, but I'm grateful for everything. Quinn's eyes filled. She reached out and touched his shoulder. Just once. Brief, but genuine. You're a good kid. Your mother raised you well. She has. She's the best. Quinn looked at Avery, made eye contact, nodded. Something passed between them. Not friendship, exactly, but understanding, respect. Two women who'd been through hell and come out. The other side. Two mothers who'd both made impossible choices. Two people who'd never be friends but had learned to exist in the same space with grace. The family stood together, all six of them, connected by DNA and trauma and choice and love. Not perfect, never perfect, but whole in their own broken way. Family, this is Mr. Hearthline, and I need to talk to you about what this story really means, because it's not about betrayal, though betrayal happened. It's not about revenge, though revenge would have been easier. It's not even about forgiveness, though forgiveness played a part. This story is about grace. Grace under fire. Grace when it costs everything. Grace as a choice, not a feeling. Avery made an impossible choice. Show up at a stranger's door and destroy a family, or watch her son die. She chose her son, and she'd do it again. That's not villainy. That's motherhood in its rawest form. Quinn made an impossible choice. Allow her daughter to save the child born of her husband's betrayal, or let an innocent boy die. She chose grace. Chose to be bigger than her pain. That's not weakness. That's strength in its purest form. Charlie made impossible choices. Own his mistakes. Show up for the son he didn't know existed. Accept the consequences. Pay the price. That's not redemption. That's accountability. Dorothy made an impossible choice for an 8-year-old. Endure pain to save a brother she barely knew. She didn't hesitate. Children understand what adults forget. Family means showing up. Family means sacrifice. Family means love. And Tom didn't make choices. He just lived, survived, loved, forgave. He taught the adults around him how to be human, how to see connection instead of complication, how to choose love when hatred would be easier. The family they built wasn't born. It was forged in hospital rooms and hard conversations and painful choices and daily decisions to show up, to try, to love even when it hurt. That's what real family is, not biology. Tradition, not what you're supposed to be, but what you choose to be every single day. You can survive the worst moment of your life. You can rebuild from ashes. You can be broken and beautiful at the same time. Grace defeats cruelty every time. Love can be bigger than biology. Second chances are real for those brave enough to reach for them. And families aren't always born. Sometimes they're built, piece by piece, choice by choice, day by day. Now, family, I need you to do something for me. If this story moved you, hit that like button right now. Share this with someone who needs to hear that healing is possible. Comment where you're watching from, or just type, "I'm with you, Mr. Hearthline." Subscribe to Mr. Hearthline Stories for more stories about people who refuse to let betrayal define them. Because the world needs more stories like this. Stories that show us broken things can be beautiful. That complicated can be good. That choosing love over and over, even when it's hard, is always worth it. Let me show you where they are now. Let me show you how this story ends, or begins, depending on how you look at it. 3 years later, Tom is 15, 10 years, cancer-free, considered completely cured. He's in high school. His art has won state competitions. He's thinking about art school for college. He's tall now, lanky, with his father's build and his mother's smile. Those amber eyes still bright, still seeing the world with wisdom beyond his years. It's his 15th birthday. The entire family gathers. This is tradition now. They alternate between houses. This year, it's at Charlie's place, not the mansion in Willow Heights. He sold that. Too many bad memories. He lives in a smaller house now. Still nice, but homey, comfortable, built for family, not for showing off. Avery arrives with Tom. She's confident now, successful. Her design firm has grown. She's still independent, still fierce, but not alone anymore. She and Charlie co-parent seamlessly. They're not together romantically, never will be, but they're friends, real friends, united in loving their son. Quinn arrives with Dorothy and Ella. Dorothy is 17 now, planning to study medicine, wants to be an oncologist, wants to save kids like she saved Tom. Ella is 15, Tom's age, his partner in crime. They have the same sense of humor, same artistic streak. They're best friends. Dorothy hugs Tom immediately. Happy birthday, little brother. You're only 2 years older than me. Stop calling me little. You'll always be little to me. I changed your bone marrow. That makes you my baby. Tom rolls his eyes, but he's smiling. Thanks for that, by the way. For the millionth time. You're welcome. For the millionth time. They gather around the table. Cake and presents and laughter. 15 candles. Tom makes a wish, blows them out. Everyone cheers. It's chaotic and loud and imperfect. Someone spills soda. Someone else tells a bad joke. Ella and Tom argue about what movie to watch later. Dorothy mediates. Avery and Charlie coordinate cleanup. Quinn watches with a small smile. After cake, Tom hands out gifts. He's made drawings for everyone, personal, specific. For Avery, a portrait of her at her design desk, creating. For Charlie, him and Tom watching dinosaur documentaries. For Dorothy, her in a doctor's coat with a stethoscope, saving lives. For Ella, her laughing at something on her phone. And for Quinn, something unexpected. It's a drawing of all of them, similar to his school project from years ago. But this time, they're not separate trees. They're woven together, overlapping. The title at the bottom reads, The Family That Chose Each Other. Quinn takes it, looks at it for a long moment. Her eyes get wet. She looks up at Tom. This is beautiful. Thank you. Tom nods. I know it's still hard sometimes, for you, having me around, being reminded, but I wanted you to know. I'm grateful for everything. You didn't have to let Dorothy save me, but you did. And I'm here because of that choice. So, thank you for choosing grace, even when it hurt. Quinn's voice breaks. You're a good kid, Tom. I'm glad you're here. It's not, I love you. It might never be, but it's honest. It's real. It's what Quinn can give, and Tom accepts it. Nods. Understands. Doesn't push for more. Avery watches them. Watches this impossible family that shouldn't work, but does. Watches her son, alive and thriving, and surrounded by people who love him. Watches Charlie being the father he learned to be. Watches Dorothy and Ella, who never saw Tom as scandal, only as brother. Watches Quinn, who made the hardest choice and has been living with it gracefully for 10 years. Charlie catches her eye. Mouths. We did okay. Avery smiles. Mouths back, yeah. We did. The evening winds down. Dorothy and Ella declare Tom's drawing is going on their walls immediately. Quinn carefully rolls hers up to take home. Tom stands in the middle of his family, feeling the happiness that only comes from being fully, completely, unconditionally loved. Not despite the complication, because of it. Because every person in this room made hard choices to be here, to show up, to love him. The party ends. Hugs goodbye. See you next week. Love you. Drive safe. The normal things families say. And as everyone leaves, as Tom and Avery drive back across the city to their apartment, Tom looks at his mama. Best birthday ever. Avery smiles. I'm glad, baby. Do you think? Tom hesitates. Do you think we're normal now? Like, is this just normal family stuff? Avery considers, I don't know if we'll ever be normal, but I think we're us. And that's better. Tom nods, looks out the window. Yeah, that's better. Family, for every mother who's made impossible choices, for every father learning what presence really means, for every person who's had to decide between protecting themselves and saving someone else, for every family that doesn't fit the mold but fits together anyway. This story is for you. May you have Avery's courage when desperation comes. May you find Quinn's grace when betrayal strikes. May you know when to walk away and when to build bridges. May your family, however you define it, stay strong. This is Mr. Hearthline, reminding you that your story isn't over just because someone tried to end it. Your story is just beginning. The best things in life are rarely simple. The most valuable relationships are often the hardest fought. Real family is built one brave choice at a time. Choose love. Choose forgiveness. Choose healing. Choose to show up even when it's hard. Choose to be bigger than your pain. Choose grace over revenge. Choose presence over perfection. Choose your children over your pride. Choose to build instead of destroy. Because family, broken things can be beautiful. Complicated can be good. And love, real love, the kind that survives fire and comes out stronger, that love is worth fighting for. Until next time, family, I'm with you, and I'll see you in the next story.